Hi everybody, welcome back. Now in this video I wanted to address a couple of issues and answer a couple of questions. I'll try to anyway. The first one is, why are the DayZ devs working on new content? We've just had the teaser trailer dropped that seems to be saying that there's going to be a new DayZ desert map coming in the near future, and it's going to be probably based on Takistan, maybe. That's what I kind of think anyway, which is a old Arma 2 map. So why are they working on this stuff for this old game when instead they could be putting all of their efforts into DayZ 2? And then also, why are we getting these new DayZ maps in inverted commas, but they're based on old Arma Terrains? Because I think maybe lots of people, including myself, we're kind of a bit frustrated about this, but when you think about it a little bit, we can kind of look behind the curtain and maybe kind of picture what's actually happening at Bohemia Interactive, so we can understand what's going on. So why aren't the devs just going all in and working on DayZ 2? So what I think is happening is that if you went to Bohemia Interactive right now during the work week and went inside and visited the section of Bohemia Interactive that's working on Arma, so Arma Reforger and Arma 4, which is due to be released in 2027, you'd find a lot of devs. An awful lot of devs, awful lot of really experienced devs as well, who are building this engine, the new Enfusion Engine, and building in all the features that they need so that when Arma 4 releases in 2027, it's going to have everything that they want. Now, when Arma 3 released back in 2013, I think it was, something like that, it didn't have everything in it. It didn't have things like, you had to wait for things like the helicopters DLCs, the main ones, and the tanks DLC. Actually, it was the jets DLC, sorry, that came in time. And I don't even think that there were some other chunky bits missing as well. It wasn't a complete game at launch. Obviously, it turned into this massive powerhouse that, just like DayZ, has gone on for over 10 years. But it wasn't a complete piece of work. And I think what Bohemia Interactive are working on is that they know that Arma 4, when it comes out in 2027, has to be as near as perfect as they can get it. It's not going to be an early access release, I would have thought. I think Arma Reforger is their early access for Arma 4. That's how they're getting the engine fine-tuned and adding all those bits so that they can work on it. But importantly, and I think this is really important, developing the tools that they will be using to create missions and quests and campaigns for Arma 4. Because really, DayZ, and the clue is in, if you mod DayZ servers, you'll know, the clue is that DayZ is really just kind of like a mission for Arma. But it's a mission that involves survival and zombies and infected and all this sort of stuff. So I think what Bohemia Interactive are developing is not only you're going to have this engine that has, can handle helicopters and jets and guns and then AI and then zombies and food and all this sort of stuff. It's going to be able to handle all of that, but also it'll have very easy tools that not only Bohemia Interactive can use to mod and to create missions for the game. Because remember, in a military sim game, a lot of the time you want to create missions. It's not just that always a sandbox where everybody's just fighting each other. You want single player scenarios, you want co-op scenarios, where you could create something like the DLC we have for Arma 3, where you could create Prairie Fire for single player or co-op missions, or World War II missions, or Cold War missions, as it will be in Arma Reforger. So I think that's why it's taking so long. That's what it's going to take to 2027. You're going to have this package of Arma 4 complete with multiplayer, with servers ready to go, single player campaign, single player scenarios, training missions, all that sort of stuff, a comprehensive 3D editor and a comprehensive mission maker that will be and kind of probably bundled in with the 3D editor. We don't kind of have that with the Arma Reforger editor at the moment, though it's very powerful. You're not really making missions, you have to use their other tools to create that. So that's kind of going on at Bohemia Interactive in the Arma section, the Arma wing of the Bohemia Interactive mansion. Then if you go to the DayZ section, you go past the Vigor section, and there's a few of them looking a bit sad. And then you go to the DayZ section, we've got all our new DayZ devs and artists who are there, and they're working hard, polishing and and working on DayZ, and they created the Sakal map, didn't they? And I think what happened with that is there was probably some discussions with Bohemia Interactive when they said, okay, guys, Arma 4 is not going to be until 2027. It's a long time off. So that means that whatever DayZ 2 might be, whether that be existing DayZ transferring into the new engine, or a new title, DayZ 2 coming out, or them running maybe 2 games in parallel, which I think what will happen. You'll have DayZ, which will run on old consoles and slower computers, and then you'll have DayZ 2, which will be for modern computers and modern consoles. But it's not coming out to 2027. So what are we going to do about you lot? Now, obviously, what they could do is they could just say, okay, we're going to keep a handful of you to work on bugs, and we're going to let the rest of you go. Some of the ones we want to keep to work on Arma, we'll keep you, but the rest of them, we're going to lay you off. But I think what they said was, actually, I tell you what, let's try something new. Let's see if we can make some more DLC for DayZ. And so they thought, well, how can we do this? What would be a quick way to make maps? So they took the decision, which I think is the right decision. Let's take the basis of terrains from existing Arma maps, because that's what they've done all along. Chernerus was originally Arma 2 map, Livonia was an Arma 3 map, and Sakal was Tanoa, which was a tropical map. Then it became the winter map. That's a quicker way of creating, because if you try and create a map from scratch, so from just a blank canvas, you've got to create all the geography and the topography, and you've got to think how the flow of the maps work, where are the roads, where are the rivers, where are the hills, where are the mountains, where are the towns. But if we take an existing map where somebody worked that out 10 years ago, we can do that quicker. And what that means is we can then also have a revenue stream to keep these people employed and keep them busy and keep them sharp as well, and keep working on the ideas of what DayZ actually is as a game. And so that's why you got Sakal. So that was kind of the experiment, and that would have also been them getting the workflow into place. How do we do this? How do we take an existing topographical map, and then we port it into DayZ, and then we need to port all of the DayZ stuff over, like the buildings and the central loot economy and where the zombies spawn and all that sort of stuff, give it some sort of flow, some sort of mission to do, like with the bunker. How do we do that? Now, they'll have got that mostly in place now, because all of those learnings they would have learnt through Sakal. So now they'll be on this, right, okay, so what's the next one? And I think probably the kind of standing orders will be, what we want you guys to be doing is, you're going to be working on doing this sort of stuff. So you're going to be working on, bug fixes and adding small things into the existing game. So things like extra weapons or some extra survival mechanics, and maybe making the zombies work better. But all the artists who are working on textures and working on buildings and things like that, we're going to keep you busy by converting Arma maps to DayZ. And then that's going to give us a revenue stream, because we can release it. I think this one's going to be cheaper than Sakal. I think we're probably looking at £20 for this one. I think the release will all be much better done, because they'll have learned all that. We can then get that revenue stream in to pay for excuse me, all of your wages. It keeps DayZ alive as well, especially on console where we don't have all these different maps. And then when the Arma Reforger stroke Arma 4 guys are ready to go, and they'll be like, right, okay, Arma 4's good. The tools that you guys need, DayZ guys need, to make DayZ in the new Enfusion Engine, we've got them. They're ready. Let's go. And then they'll flick the switch and it'll be right. Let's get on with DayZ. And then that will be obviously you'll have devs coming over from Arma 4 and Arma Reforger to help the DayZ team. Now, I'm sure at this moment, the DayZ devs and the Arma devs are probably having meetings about DayZ 2, and I'm pretty sure they'll have some prototypes up and running in Enfusion right now. I would be very surprised if they're not. I would be very surprised if there isn't map group pos and map group proto files for the central loot economy for all of the buildings on Everon and Ireland. Yeah, I would be very surprised if that doesn't happen. And I would also be incredibly surprised if we don't get a DayZ Reforger over the next year or so, where they say, okay, so Arma Reforger was the halfway house between Arma 3 and the full release of Arma 4. And DayZ Reforger, which will be on Everon and Arland, or just Everon, that is going to be the halfway house between DayZ and DayZ 2. I'd be very surprised if that doesn't happen. But I think at the moment the DayZ devs, and I don't mean it in a bad way to say they're in like this holding pattern of, look, what we can do. We've got this work plan in place where we know how to take old maps and turn them into good, sellable, playable DLC. So let's keep us doing that. Let's keep DayZ going, keep DayZ in the spotlight of the players, keep it fresh, and then as soon as we're ready to go, as soon as Enfusion is ready for Arma 4 and therefore DayZ 2.0, you're going to see that flicking over. So there we go. So hopefully it kind of answers the question. All the time that the DayZ devs are working on major things like a new map, it's keeping them all employed. It's going to be keeping a revenue stream coming in, keeping DayZ alive, and the reason why we get the maps is because it gives them this easier workflow, this easier way of creating content that again can keep the revenue coming in, to keep that department, the DayZ department in Bohemia Interactive, in the money, if you like, so that when Arma Reforger and Arma 4 is ready, they'll be able to click on DayZ 2. So there we go. What do you think though? Put your questions and comments down below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.